So I'm Sam Impey, and I'm the nutritionist for the Team Wiggins cycling team.
I'm Scott Davies, and I ride for Team Wiggins.
I think it's kind of important to state early on that there's probably no one optimum race weight. Depending on what your event is and what type of rider you are, that will change the sort of optimum race weight that you race at. I suppose what you really want to do is to maximize the functional mass. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be about losing weight. It can often be about shifting where the mass in the body is. So you don't want to be using rapid weight loss strategies because you'll compromise your ability to train and potentially impact on some health as well.
It can be a fine balance between trying to lose weight and also sort of training effectively. I think you've got to pay a bit of attention to making sure you're well fueled. I think if you're trying to do high quality efforts, you can only store so much fuel, and then when you eventually hit the wall, it's not a nice feeling. So the bulk of my sessions will be harder ones, bread and butter sessions. Your intervals and your efforts. That in itself is going to help you achieve your race weight and burn more calories. I'll occasionally do some fasted rides or some low carb rides. Essentially just out riding my bike. There's no sort of, I'm not making a conscious effort to hold a certain power or anything.
Quite often what we do is advocate that, you do a mixture of fasted and fueled rides. And it's important not just to think about fasted rides as a weight loss strategy. It's also training the body to be able to burn fat as a fuel source. Incorporating fasted rides into a training program, it's essential also to manage that and balance that with doing fueled rides as well. Because of course, when you're racing, you're going to be well fueled. What you want to do is maintain that metabolic flexibility and your ability to, use fat as a fuel source and use carbohydrate as a fuel source. The recovery process is where adaptation takes place, and so the training is what causes the adaptation, and the recovery is what allows it to build in and take hold, and that is what increases in performance.
It's one thing training hard, but I think the recovery process is equally as important.
Carbohydrate is the predominant fuel source for most of the training rides that people will do. It's also the key determining factor in fatigue. So avoiding people often speak about bonking or hitting the wall. That actually occurs when you run out of carbohydrates. So it's the predominant driving factor in what regulates your ability to train and perform. If you're doing rides of up to an hour or less, then you probably don't need to take on any carbohydrates for that type of training. So we'd recommend just water or something like the 5 electrolytes. And then going into beyond that, hours 2 or even hour 3, look to get somewhere in the region of 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. Going into the longer rides, your 3 hour plus type rides, then we'd probably look to recommendations in the region of sort of 60 to 90 grams per hour of carbohydrate. Essentially what you want to do during training, as well as fueling the training that you're doing, is train the gut to be able to handle and digest and make the macronutrients in the food that you've eaten available to the muscles. Using a variety of different products that replicate the types of foods you're going to use during racing is the best way to fuel the training rides.
So when I'm on the bike, I'll tend to take a mixture of solid food and gels. Stuff like the hydrogels, the sort of natural energy bars, maybe a couple of rice cakes. Mix it up a bit, because when you're on the bike for, say, 4 or 5 hours, the last thing you want is for it to become a bit monotonous.
So the benefits of using gels or purpose-built, custom-designed sport nutrition products is that they're designed in a way that they provide what is shown in research to be the optimum mix of different types of carbohydrates, and that can translate into a benefit for performance when you increase that out over a longer period of time. When you're looking at the kind of composition of fluids that you should drink when you're on the bike, obviously it's important to drink to thirst, so we would advocate that follow your body. It's a pretty well adapted piece of kit. From a hydration perspective, obviously, what you're looking to do is to create what we call the greatest osmotic pressure. And just water alone is good for hydrating, but actually adding some minerals and some salts to that. So adding electrolytes to a solution can increase the rate at which you can rehydrate or stay hydrated during exercise.
Yeah, so normally when I'm doing low carb or fasted, I'll get up, have a cup of coffee, maybe 500 ml or so with an electrolyte tab in it. And then on the bike with me, I'll take maybe 2 bottles, one with an electrolyte tab in it and the other with some whey powder, just to make sure I'm topped up on protein. The purpose of those rides is to try and burn as much fat as possible, and you want to try and avoid the body sort of eating into your muscle.
In terms of what to eat, around training when you're off the bike, just day to day. With all the guys on the team, we advocate a food first approach. So it's essential that you base all your kind of dietary intake around good meals and well-structured meals. We tend to promote a lot of fruits and vegetables of different colors and different textures as well. Obviously, different colors have different active ingredients and different textures provide more or less fiber in the diet. We combine that with unprocessed and as natural as possible types of carbohydrates, so rices, legumes, beans, that kind of stuff, just for a really sort of easily digestible and palatable source of carbohydrates. White meats and fish as the predominant sources of protein, so things like chicken and turkey, cod, haddock. Oily fish maybe once, twice a week, just to provide some kind of omega fatty acids. The great thing about kind of having well-structured meals is that you can incorporate good, healthy snacks in between them. The kind of things that we'd recommend are, yogurts with fruit and nuts, or wraps, fresh fruit on its own. Generally speaking, in a smaller quantity, so it really is a snack as opposed to a small meal, if that makes sense. I
think as a pro cyclist, it's a bit of a misconception that you can get away with eating what you want. Of course, when you're training hard and racing hard, your calorie intake tends to be quite high. If you do pay close attention to what you're eating and your overall diet, I think it does filter through to your overall performance, whether it be improved recovery or better power to weight, it's certainly going to help you.
A pre-bed snack, again, this tends to be protein focused, just to sort of really drive that recovery aspect throughout the night as well.
Yeah, so I do use quite a lot of the protein products, whether it be in powder or bar format, and the convenience of them is great. If I'm ever pushed for time, a Jaffa cake is quite good, and then another flavour is vanilla coconut, which tastes quite nice as well.
In summary, I suppose, when you're looking to achieve your optimum race weight and you're looking to maximise that functional mass and get into the best shape possible for racing, I think it's essential, to plan and to structure the way that you want to achieve those goals, and you build in a nutrition and training plan that's appropriate, incorporating fasted or sleep low rides into your training, as well as doing the fueled rides. Sustaining a healthy diet and a balanced diet, predominantly from foods, natural foods, and eating regularly throughout the day, incorporating snacks in between meals so that you can sustain that healthy balance of food across the day, to replenish and recover from training and to fuel the next ride as required.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of getting down to race weight, I'd never say it's easy as such, but I think, with a bit of discipline and a bit of hard work, it is certainly achievable, and I think you've just got to keep it sensible, keep your eye on the end goal, and you will get there.